Okay. Yeah, you're about the fourth person to tell me. I don't see it. Here, I have. Yeah, no, I have bleach back there. I'm not sure I like this shirt tucked in, so I'm kind of arguing with myself on this point. All right, we are in Genesis. Genesis begins it all. One of these days, I really will bring that song out. And we are in chapter 27 and picking up in verse 30. 30. Pretty convenient. All right. So we. Oh, okay. 26, 34, 20. Okay. So 27, 1. That's why. So last week, sorry, I'm trying to multitask and I'm male, so I don't do that well. We saw last week Isaac's kind of solo act there in Genesis 26. Really, the only time in this whole account that really Isaac is kind of the real focus of the story. Up until this point, he has been Isaac, the son of Abraham. And after this time, he's already started in chapter, was it 25, I think. Yeah, the end of 25. He was already the father of Jacob and Esau. That is going to continue now through the end of this. Does anybody offhand remember how old Isaac is, though, at this point as we start into chapter 27? Wow, that's a lot of numbers, and none of them similar. So let's think about this. How old was Isaac when he got married? Right. He was 40 years old when he got married. How old was Isaac when he had his children? 60. Right. Okay. So as we enter into chapter 27, if you read up one verse, verse 34 of 26, how old are his children? Okay. And they're twins, so they're the same age. Right. It kind of works that way. Although, did you read that article this week that there was twins that were born like several weeks apart? Yeah, like she went into labor prematurely, had one of the babies. They managed to stop it and get the other one to term. And so they're twins, and yet they have different birth dates. It's a crazy world in which we live. What's that? I don't know. I didn't read the article itself. Yeah, I was skimming. I was just I thought it was cool, but not cool enough, I guess, to pay that much deep information. Sorry, or not much deep attention. So if Esau is 40 and Isaac is 40, how old is Isaac? 100, right? So Isaac is 100 years old. Um, Not exactly a spring chicken. How long did Abraham live to be? Well, I mean, this is just as a matter of. Okay, you're very close. I think it was 175, if memory serves. Um, so Abraham lives to be 175 years old. Isaac is 100 years old. So that's just a like comparison. He's not young, but if his dad lived to be 175, now granted, Abraham lived longer than people in his generation probably did, and certainly longer than his sons did. But still, you get the sense that at 100, you've still got a couple years in you. If your dad died at 175, probably you've got some time. Um, and I only say that because of where we begin in chapter 27. Now it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son and said to him, "My son." And he answered him, "Here I am."
Then he said, "Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death."
Okay, so I don't know how old, I don't know when I'm going to die, which is true, right? I mean, that's true enough. Does anybody know when you're going to die? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody's been to like the fortune teller or anything like that? You've got X number of days left. We don't know when we're going to die. And so that much is true. But at 100 years old, he can't see very well. But he's assuming that the day of his death is sooner, not farther. I mean, that's the sense that you have and we're going to get as we read through this. I don't know when I'm going to die, but I think it's soon, is kind of what he's giving off. So we get to verse 3.
Now, therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me.
And make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die.
And Rebekah heard that Isaac spake to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. Six. She said to Jacob, I have just heard your father say to Esau, bring
Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat and bless you before the Lord before my death.
Now therefore, my son, obey my words according to that which I command you.
Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves.
Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death.
Okay, so this is Father's Day, so the point of this lesson is this. Steak is good. Dads love steak, right? Isn't that what it says? Dads love meat. I'm thinking ribs and steak.
Well, it's a lamb.
No, venison is a deer. Yeah, a goat. So he's getting a goat instead of a deer. Anybody ever had goat? I've had goat cheese.
You can eat goat cheese, you can have goat.
It's feta. Who knew? You've never had feta?
Oh, no, I'm just saying he said have goat. I'm like, oh.
Well, no, I just asked because in the Middle East, goat is actually a very common thing. I mean, you can get goat, and if you've ever watched anything on Food Network, eventually they'll serve goat to somebody. It's just like this thing. I just didn't know. I've never had goat. I have no idea what it tastes like. Probably, but I'm thinking if Esau's out hunting for deer, that deer and goat, if you can serve them to each, not know the difference, that they must taste similar, so slightly gamey, but very lean. I have no idea. I've never had it. I was just curious. Maybe that may be. That may be. If you've ever been to what's that place over in Walpole? The buffet. Yeah, the Old Country Buffet. Filled with Old Country buffeters. Where the food is already soft and bland. Sorry.
Rebecca was listening.
Yep.
She said, don't go get him venison, just cook him goat.
Yep.
She like looking out for his
Yep.
stomach?
No, she's not looking out for. This has absolutely nothing to do with Isaac. And that's the thing with this story here. That's the real point of it. The real point is nothing to do with the meat. The real point of the story is here's Isaac. He's convinced he's about to die. He wants to confer that blessing. He wants to say, you are my son. I am blessing you with everything. And he wants to give that to Esau, who is his older son, who is his manly man son. And so he says, hey, go hunting. Get me some deer. I'm going to eat my fill, and then I'm going to bless you. And my life will be good because I'll get good food. Your life will be good because you'll get the inheritance, and life will be good. And so Esau immediately goes running out. But Rebekah is listening, and she says to Jacob, go get me a goat and kill it, and we'll cook goat for Dad because, either he doesn't know or it tastes a lot alike. Have you guys ever had goat? Okay. I'm just asking. Nobody's had goat. So she says, bring it here, and then you can serve goat. And what Rebekah is doing has nothing to do with Isaac and everything to do with whom? Jacob. Can we sense the divisions in this family and what they must have been like? We already had stated for us before that Isaac loved Esau and Rebekah loved Jacob. I think love might have been too soft a word. Because, this is hardcore. I'm going to help you steal the inheritance from your brother because I favor you that highly above him. I mean, is it any wonder that the miracle in this whole thing, in really for chapters on end in either direction, is that anybody got out of this story sane? I mean, talk about having serious parent issues. Yes, absolutely. It was more overt here, and you had siblings who were of equal standing, both having same parents. I mean, you had it with Isaac and Ishmael, but Ishmael had a different mom, and so he had a lower standing. But here you've got brothers who were, I mean, you couldn't get any more equal standing than being twins. And yet, within the context of their family, dad likes Esau and mom likes Jacob. And this is not like a like thing. This is not a love thing. This is not a favor thing. This is like a, oh my goodness, you need therapy thing. And so she says, go get the goats. I'll make the meat that your dad is going to like and enjoy. So yeah, so she's about to do this. So where do we go? Verse. Yep. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the definite. I mean, aside from whatever the meat must taste like, yeah, the goats are something you keep on hand. Deer are something you have to go find. Goats will find you actually. But the deer you have to go find. And so, she's definitely working underhanded. Definitely going. This will be faster. I can make it taste the same. Cook time I guess is about the same. Butcher time would have to be about the same. The only real time differential is in acquisition. Right. So verse 11. Well, no saying it was a little goat. I mean, the neighbors across the street used to have goats, and they weren't much smaller than a deer. Right. So she went with the veal version of the.
And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "Look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man."
12.
My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him a deceiver, and shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing.
So here's Jacob's position, Mom. Like I shave once a month, whether I need it or not. Esau shaves a couple times a day. He's a hairy man. He's a rough-skinned guy. He's blind. He's not stupid. If I go up to him, he's gonna feel me and he's gonna know. Right. I mean, he's gonna smell my lack of aftershave because I don't. There is no aftershave. Yeah. It's just. He's like, look, I got this baby face. It's just not going to work. And so, of course, Rebekah, not to be put off, has a plan.
So he went to get them and brought them to her, and she took the kind of food to swallow life.
And Rebekah took the choice pork of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob her younger son.
So apparently, Mom still has to do laundry. They were with her in the house. Okay, so I have one question. How hairy was Esau? I mean, I'm like, if you could take goat skin and put it on your neck and on your arms and pass off as Esau, how hairy is Esau? I mean, this is like disturbingly hairy at this point. Yeah, I know. Bigfoot is real. Look, he's right here. And so Rebekah gets everything together, and interestingly, she says to Jacob, "Your curse be upon me." And so she even accepts blame and responsibility for what she is kind of perpetrating here. Yeah, I mean she's property, but still, I mean, when Isaac gets around to knowing this and Esau gets around to know, but what we'll see is there's actually a real consequence that she does end up living with. And it's more by what we see by not seeing it than we see it, but I'll point it out as we get there. And so, here he is looking ridiculous as anything. Here's little Jacob wearing Esau's clothes. I'm guessing Esau's clothes were probably a little bulky on him and probably gathered in places just so he doesn't trip over them. You could imagine it'd be like your kids putting on your clothes. Almost that. That's, at least that's my perception of their size differential is significant enough that this is baggy on a good day, and he's got goat skin strapped to his neck and his face and onto his hands and carrying this tray. Does he look ridiculous in your mind's eye? I mean, he looks like a flippin' idiot. But so anyway, verse 18. So, who are you? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Please arise, sit and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me.
But Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord your God brought it to me.
Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not.
Jacob went unto Isaac his father, and he felt it, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
And he discerned him not, because his hands were buried in his brother Esau's hand, so he blessed him. But as for him, are you really Esau? I am, he answered.
He said, Bring it here to me, and I will eat out of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you. So he brought it near him, and he ate. And he brought him wine, and he drank.
Then his father Isaac said to him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son.
He came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him and said,
All right, hold on, stop. Let me stop you in the middle there. Do you get a sense of turmoil in Jacob? That, here he is, he's like, I can't see, and I get that I can't see, but I can still hear, and that doesn't sound like Esau. Isaac, yes, thank you. It sounds like Isaac. It does not sound like Esau. And so he goes through this series of trying to figure out what's going on. So, come here, bring it here. Let me feel you. So that's why you can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings will be wrong. That's not really a direct application. Two different types of feeling. But, so he touches him, and his tactile sense, he does not, he feels like Jacob, which tells you again, Esau was a one hairy dude, because if this feels right, ew. But, ladies, he had 3 wives, so I guess he had it going on. But anyway, so, he gets there, and then he brings him in closer, and he smells him, and it smells like Esau, which I'm guessing means mom didn't really wash those clothes. She just held them, because they still smelled like Esau. They probably didn't have washer machines like we did, so maybe some BO is normal. But, so he's got these series of trying to discern who it is, because his ears are telling him one thing, and yet the voice is telling him something else, and he's trying to figure it out, what's really going on here. And that really gives you a sense of Isaac's blindness, because, I'm relatively blind. Take off my contacts, take off my glasses. I'm relatively blind, but you get close enough and I can still see. I can certainly tell the difference between a Sasquatch and a kid, and Isaac is far enough gone that there's just nothing registering at all. So he's going through this, trying to figure it out. And then at some point, that sense of smell thing wins out over what his brain is telling him. He knows, I think, in his heart. That's my sense, that he knows that he's not dealing with Esau here. It doesn't sound like Esau, and his ears still work fine. This is before iPods and earbuds. His ears are fine. And so he's going through, he's trying to figure it out. But he, at some point, allows himself to be convinced, or convinces himself, that he's really dealing with Esau, not with Jacob. Even right down to the timing. This just doesn't even seem like the right amount of time. It's too fast. I mean, there is no like McDonald's. You just, this is boom. And so everything seems off, and yet he allows himself to be convinced that he is dealing with Esau. And so we pick up back in the, oh, sorry. Yep.
Is it possible you put past Rebecca to have already planned this? Because in 15, it said, then Rebecca took the choice clothes of her eldest son Esau.
I don't think it was so much a planned thing. I think it's just, being mom, even though he's 40 and has wives, whatever, she's still, there's still that maternal responsibility.
Or Rebecca knew this day was coming. To me, it's
I don't know that. I mean, Isaac still had a lot of years ahead of him, you would think. At 100 years old, he's hardly ancient by comparison. And certainly you wouldn't, keep clothes 50, 60 years in hopes. So I don't know that I would go to the premeditated. It's very opportunistic. And, so I don't think her having the clothes is necessarily an indication of forethought. It could be. It could be. I mean, we're not told. It's conjecture, but.
the word choice clothes, right? Then Rebecca took the choice clothes.
Yeah, maybe, it's his Sunday best. Maybe he only had one Sunday best, and she kept it because he never wore it. Right.
Actually, she had no way of knowing that he was gonna say, oh, by the way, my clothes are hot. Go get me a good meal. She had no way of premeditating that.
Right, and that's the thing. I don't think that she would have known that this opportunity would present itself in this way. I think it was very opportunistic, very, why did she have the clothes? That's, I don't know. It does seem coincidental. You would think, a guy who's got wives, one of them would know how to do his laundry, or he didn't shop very well. So he, sorry, that was really chauvinistic. But you would think that somebody here within his own immediate family would know, so why did she have the clothes? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, maybe his wives didn't know how to sew. Maybe they, who knows? Maybe they were something he wore years ago and, didn't like. They were out of fashion and she kept it because moms do that. Oh, look at my, first communion, first, walk, first, whatever. So, holy cow, we're running out of time. All right, so we need to hurry. So, back into verse 27.
See, the smell of my son is as of the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed.
Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and rain for everyone.
Let people serve you and nations bow down to you and be master over your brethren. And let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. That particular part of this blessing, what does that sound like? Does that ring a bell to anything else we've heard before? Yeah, there is some marked similarities between this and the covenant that God made with Abraham. And so you have Isaac trying to transfer that covenant that was with God. Now, who actually conferred the Abrahamic covenant on Isaac? Not Abraham, God. And so eventually, God would be the one to pass this down as well. But you have that some similarity in there. And what we find then, and we don't have time, because we're going to be invaded here, but as you read down through the end of this chapter, you can imagine this didn't play out very well. Because what happens is, Jacob receives this blessing and leaves, and 5 minutes later, in walks Esau, wearing his own clothes and his own hairy self, carrying his own tray of food, and he comes up to Jacob and says, I have game. Why don't you, sit, eat, and then, rise up and bless me? And Isaac is just a tad undone because he has just given this blessing on somebody that he's, that last piece of the puzzle fell into place. He goes, that was actually Jacob, not Esau. And so he tells Esau, he says, look, I've already given the blessing. There's nothing left. He will be blessed. I mean, I'm a man of my word. I've given my word. And that's really all there is to it. And so you can imagine how well that played out when Esau left. Who was he looking for? With deadly intent? Pretty much. And so, he decided that he was going to wait until after Isaac died, and then he was going to kill his brother. That was his plan. As soon as Dad dies, you're toast. And so Rebekah then sends Jacob from Hebron back to Padanaram, back to her father's house. She says, you need to get out of here. Your brother's going to kill you. As soon as your dad dies, you're going to die. And why should I mourn both of you at the same time? Go back to my father's house, and I'll send word when when your brother is pacified. Right, she was buying into this Isaac is dying soon thing too. The humor in this is that Isaac does not die for decades. I mean, he's got decades left in him. We'll see that as the story progresses. What is sad about this, and I'll say it now because we're really probably not going to see it when we get there, but when Jacob finally comes back from Padanaram, guess who's already gone? Rebekah. Mom has already died. And so Rebekah sends Jacob to Padanaram and never sees him again. And it's not like, a fond farewell. It was like, you need to get out of here now. And he literally runs, and that's the last time she sees him. Yeah. I mean, that's the actual tragedy, I think. I mean, there are many tragedies in this. She really did. She really did. Now, what's interesting about all of this, in all of its sordid detail, is do you remember the prophecy that accompanied the birth of Jacob and Esau? The older will serve the younger. And as it turns out, who received the blessing? The younger. And part of that blessing was, may your brothers serve you. Did God know this was going to happen? Could this have been fulfilled absent Rebekah's plan? That's conjecture. Don't answer, because we don't know. Right. I mean, we're right. With God, all things are possible. That much is certain. But nobody in this story acted the part of the puppet. Every character in the story acted in keeping with their own character or lack thereof, and in keeping with their own choices in the process. God just looked through the quarters of time and knew what was going to happen. And so you can't put the responsibility of this scenario off on God because of a prophecy that had been given 40 years earlier. God didn't cause this to happen, but God knew that it was going to happen. And so we have to be careful not to cross that line of assigning intent with knowledge. Lots of things that you didn't make happen. I knew the last election that our country was going to be in a mess, and 4 years later, but I didn't make that happen. I just knew it was going to happen. Sorry, that was a bit political, but yeah, you would think, because you deceived me, and yet Isaac's position, and I would encourage you to read through the rest of the chapter, during the week. But Isaac's position was, I gave this blessing, it's been given, and it's given. And that was his position. I've blessed him, and he is blessed. And Jacob literally breaks down in tears, like, is there nothing left for me? And his dad said, yeah, you can go live by your bow. Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely, you're dealing in it, we call this the patriarchs, and there definitely is a very patriarchal mindset organization to this. Abraham ruled his family, and it was not a small family, it was a traveling nation. Isaac ruled his family, and Isaac conferred that upon Jacob. And for better or for worse, once given, he said, that's done. That was his position, though. That's not my position. Yeah. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that he could have. He deceived me. I rescind that. I think he could have, but he didn't think he could have. And that was his statement in there. He said, I've already given the blessing, and it's given. So, could he have? For me, looking back, 4,000 years, I would say, yeah. But him in that situation, in that culture, in, whatever, in that family, as neurotic as it was, his position was, yeah, right, it's done. I can't do anything about it. Yeah, I mean, there is that. I can be deceived, but I can't, right? Right. And there's certainly an element to character that says, character is swearing to your own hurt, but fulfilling it anyway. And that's something that we see Isaac doing here. So, all right, good stuff. Well, sort of. But what we see ultimately is the plan of God still continuing to work through this family, even though the family is a disaster. I mean, there's nothing to be seen in this that we could say, you should do that at home. Everything about this family, like, don't try this at home. They're not trained professionals. They're idiots. So anyway. All right, let's pray so we can get the next hour. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for Jesus, and we thank you for your word. Lord, help us to see that there are a lot of things that we can do to try to bring your will about, but the easiest thing is to just let you bring your will about. Father, the damage, the consequences, the bad blood that resulted from this story is just, it's tragic. It really is. Father, may we never come close to experiencing any of this. Father, may we just rest in allowing you to do your job. Well, thank you in Jesus' good name.